Hi, I'm Paul Roberts. This is Conscious Counseling 101. And this is going to be a generic video that someone has requested about what I've done to handle my financial situation as a starving artist and to manage my debt and how I live my life. Now, I'm going to give personal information as I've been requested to, but it's going to be generic personal information, just like this is going to be generically done so that everybody can benefit. That's why there's no cost, because I'm doing this because I believe it's what I meant to do, and I want everybody to have access to it. If I were to restrict access to something I believe is valuable, especially if it has to do with anything of a heightened conscious, non-physical realm reality that may involve an understanding of our purpose for our Creator, and I were to hold anybody back, then I would be guilty of keeping someone from coming that otherwise would have. And that's the worst thing a person could possibly do. Okay? So one of the things I'd like to start off with is you say that you feel as though you're not as good of a man as you used to be because of some of the mistakes you've made. All right. If I was going to make a mistake that really, really would make me less of a man, it'd be that, what I just said. If I kept somebody from having something I believed valuable, if I didn't make my life about making sure people could have that for no cost, that is one of my highest things. If I were to go past that, I would have had to do that in order to feel how you do now. But we're not going to talk about those great big concepts right now. We're going to talk about the practicality concepts that keep somebody bogged down and can't release themselves to going to look at those higher concepts. Now, my last video touched on some of those higher concepts, and the Batman video especially did. It's about perspective. But let's talk about practical, financial things that I've actually done as my life has shaped up so that I'm all about what I'm doing now, even though I'm just pretty much month to month. And what can I offer you? And why? All right, first I'd like to do a few disclaimers. I'd like to say that as... by the way, you're a dink? Dual income, no kid? Well, I got news for you. You've got more hope than most people do. In fact, I don't think you're in bad shape. Yeah, the numbers say you are, and some of your mistakes say you are, and some of the difficult situations that you're facing might say you are. But you've got youth. I know 55 doesn't seem youthful to some people, but I believe it is. I mean, I feel 21, okay? And you do have time on your side too. But don't go to financial advisors. However, I want you to say, I want to say this, I'm not a financial advisor. You know, go read books, go watch YouTube videos, go listen to Dave Ramsey, go find out what other financial advisors are saying. I would have said this yesterday or a couple weeks ago. Those things aren't even going to probably matter anymore because we're thrust into oblivion now with the current status of the world. Not just this waiting out this flu thing, but where that's going to leave us financially. It's going to be tough. Okay? So all these things that your conventional norms wouldn't necessarily work in the upcoming way, even if I was a financial advisor, and I'm not. I'm a starving artist, okay? But I'm rock solid. How is that possible? I live better than most people. In fact, I can't think of another person. I can't think of another person that I actually know of that lives better with as low of an income. And so let's go on with the financial things. And when I say live better, I mean the way you live. Not that I have anything, but that I'm not being bogged down by the circumstance of my lack of having monetary means to do big things. I've gotten around that, and we'll talk about that. But I want to keep this generic, even though I'm going to talk about my personal experiences. Okay, let's start off with some disclaimers. I would have made mistakes, or we could call them mistakes. I want to stay away from that word. I don't want to call them mistakes, but I want to credit my wife. We're not dual income, no kids. We are dual income, dual small income with kids. But she's made some important decisions that have been helpful, even though they aren't anywhere near as helpful as fortune, luck, flexibility, perspective, ability to look at things in different ways. But I'll just give her the biggest feathers in her cap. She got us, made sure we were on insurance, even though we couldn't afford it, for a small period of time during pregnancy, and that ended up helping us. Then we had to cancel because we couldn't afford insurance. Then later she invested in the Florida college plan because we thought we might be in Florida. She realized we would never have money for our children to go to college. We realized this long ago. Okay, our first child was born in 1999. So she got us on the Florida college plan. Now, since then, Florida has just changed all the parameters, you know, and the money that we had in there, instead of doing all these great things, he couldn't even get into the Florida. The one place he couldn't get in was the Florida University where he has the plan. And suffice it to say, the evils of man and the darkness road that they're on has caused all the fingers to get in there with all those people's money and do everything you can do to make it not be what it should be. So we had all the odds against us. And now the most we could possibly hope for is to get our money back in another way. But no interest on it, no nothing. Even if we moved to Florida, he couldn't even go into the school because he didn't get in it. Of course, I think the reason he didn't get in it, even though he got into these really high-profile schools, is because they knew he wouldn't be bringing new money to the table. So he had a mark against him. But I give my wife credit for that. Also, she made sure we bought the right life insurance and did those things correctly. If we had to do things that required money as we went along, we just wouldn't be able to do them. We went a long period of time without health insurance. We could have succumbed to all kinds of things, and I wouldn't be sitting here giving you advice then. We would have been in this horrible situation. So the only reason I'm giving you advice right now is because we didn't have horrible situations happen when we didn't have a safety net. We've gone long periods of time without health insurance. It's a horrible, horrible world we live in, that people don't realize that you're not going to have this great, strong country and this united front of all people that stand together when everybody's constantly running around like chickens with their heads cut off, wondering how they're going to make it. So some things I'm going to talk to you about are fortune. But some of the things you're thinking that you failed on are also fortune or misfortune. I'm going to talk about some of our misfortune. I married my wife in 1989. We had $2,000 in cash in her savings, and I had a car that was worth $2,000. So we started off with $4,000 between the two of us, fully educated as artists. And as soon as we got out of school, everything that you learned as artists shifted over, and now it's all done digitally. So we relearned all those tools, but what we have is the concepts. They can't be taken away. So we worked all our lives realizing the strength we stood on was the concepts of art. She's more graphic design oriented. I'm more all artist encompassed oriented. And that's why my life has projected into where we are now. In fact, this is going to take several videos, so bear with me. Buy everything in cash. We started doing that from then. Okay? We've never had a car payment. I've never had a loan payment. Except for a house, because that's so big you can't do it. I wanted to get a house that we could work in that had space, so I had to buy a little bigger house than usual. And I was also trying to buy equipment at the same time to do video production because I didn't want to be on the drawing table for the rest of my life. That's another matter altogether. I don't want to tell my whole life story, but I'm just going to show you what we're dealing with. I didn't have to borrow from my grandmother, but by borrowing from my grandmother, I was able to give enough percentage up front that I didn't have to pay mortgage insurance. So everything you could do helped you, okay? We did the safe, conventional 30-year loan, but we amortized. We gave more into it each month so that we would only be done in 9. Well, I'm still not done. I'm still working on it now. And I know they always say, pay yourself in cash first. Our whole life, we've never really understood what that means because we always put all our money into what we're doing. There's never any money. How are you supposed to pay yourself if you don't have any money? My wife's friend used to say, you can't even buy a pizza. You know, I never have any money that's expendable. That's good because I don't play the stock market, right? And at any given time, I don't have anything. Like right now, I could be in big trouble because everything's going to drop and I don't really necessarily have anything in my wallet. And quite frankly, I could go out right now and get some and put it in there. But what good would that do for me? If the value of our cash drops, there's no point. There's no point in running around doing crazy things if everything's going to drop so far that it wouldn't have mattered if you did it. A portion of you that's applying energy to thinking you're not as good of a person or you're not as wise needs to start being apportioned to, oh my gosh, forget what was yesterday or what I thought of myself. New perspective today, reset button. Now what I'm doing matters, and the circumstances in the game is completely changing. So what you need to realize is right now, no matter what you did in the past, you're going to be thrust into a place where many people are in it, and they're all under the gun. And they're all much worse off than they used to be. 2008, our cash didn't mean what it used to mean. Even if we had cash. The towers fell, our cash didn't mean what it meant. We had less value of our money. Bush went in there and made everything so that the higher people would get and the lower people would be pushed down. Again, that happened with the bailouts and different things, even though we had a different type of administration in the 2008 collapse, that happened again. Trump would like to now do it again. If you see everybody in the legislature, they're trying to make it so that the big guys win, so the trickle-down helps, and everybody will take what they get that way. The other side's trying to say, hey, man, some of these people aren't going to be benefited from that, and they've got to be helped, so let's put more emphasis on that. So no matter where you are and whatever I talk about in this video and the next one, and I think there'll probably be 3, you've got to keep all this in mind. Your perspective can be based on the power you have to change your perspective. But it's also going to be based right now on the circumstances. So as I move along with these videos, let's finish up the general introduction here. So I was finishing up on saying you have to buy everything you can in cash. Now, you could go to David Ramsey or lots of other places to have principles like this. I'm not going to focus on them, but I am going to reveal personally what I have done and why it's worked. Some of it is fortune, but we don't look at ourselves as fortunate. In fact, that's why I'm doing this video. We have overcome incredible misfortune, and I'm only sitting right now solvent because we've overcome it. But in some ways, my point of view and my perseverance is part of why we overcame it. Not necessarily my money handling that I could write a book about for you. It's not fortune. It's not luck. It is a way of looking at things that I think you're missing, and a lot of people commonly don't see it. So let's start talking about that as we go on to the details in the next video. I'm Paul Roberts. This is Conscious Counseling 101.